No. All right. It wasn't working on the Wi-Fi. All right. So is everybody good? All right. Contention 1 is sanctions. Eventual passage to the regime act is likely to lose bipartisan support. Now, Paul 1027 congressional leaders, both parties recognize that mass incarceration is morally bankrupt. Must give nonviolent ex-offenders a second chance. The regime act creates a path to expunge nonviolent crimes. Records ex-offenders who have demonstrated the will to be rehabilitated, wide-ranging support for sentencing reform, and the regime act are assigned bipartisan agreements to in Congress is up to the challenge. And regime's co-sponsors are very determined to get the Sun Smith 827 Booker and Paul Trudeau's regime. It's an introduction lays the groundwork moving forward in the next Congress. I work with anyone. Booker said number of advocacy groups have been meeting with Booker and Paul Savage Haley, Federal Advocacy Council, sentencing projects said the bill sponsors is very committed to trying to advance it. And right to be forgotten is key to making the regime act's provisions for expungement effective. This solves recidivism. Bulletin 14. With a criminal record, individuals often rejected for jobs. The least former criminals revert to legal ways, merely support themselves and families, even if the individual's record is sealed. They can still make a Google search. Europe is stressed with the right to be forgotten. The internet should not be immune to regulation, and privacy protection should be sought without addressing the internet issue. The Redeem Act would not achieve the desired result of sealing nonviolent criminals' records and addressing sealing nonviolent criminals' records. The internet cannot be ignored. Time and limited right to be forgotten be granted. And Redeem Act expungement is a shift away from the tough on crime mindset. Remnick 14. Redeem proposes federal path sealing records of nonviolent adult ex-offenders. Such policy change to the Constitution. A stark reversal from decades past when tough on crime ushered internationally severe punishment and diminished rehab. America's 75% of the world's population, with 25% of its prisoners, harsher sentencing, and other misguided policies do nothing to curb recidivism. 2/3 ex-offenders and rearrested criminal records are roadblocks in employment, housing, voting, and education. And a retributive approach to criminal justice spills over to foreign policy. This makes support for sanctions likely Wagner 10. Governments apply the same rationale to rogue states to rogue citizens. Someone who's grown up in a retributive culture is unlikely a strong believer in diplomacy and might regard sanctions as an appropriate foreign policy tool. Key policy statements on rogue statements. Rogue states demonstrate that they are imbued with criminological arguments. Rehabilitative reasoning can frequently be found. Statements justifying accommodations policy. The EU states is the best solution to problems. The countries no longer feel that they need them. EU states emphasize with the Nuremberg point on unfriendly environment. Retributive penology finds emphasizing criminals dubious. Bush prefers the dark line between the Nuremberg and the international community. And sanctions to make human rights abuses likely to empirics proof. Pex and 9. Moving from no sanction to extensive sanctions leads to 115% increase in the probability of disappearance and extrajudicial killings. 64% more likely to extensive sanctions, respectively. Moving from no sanctions to extensive sanctions increases the probability of frequent right abuses by 61% for torture. And U.S. foreign policy should promote human rights that solves global WMD conflict worldwide. 4. Evidence indicates states that abuse human rights are most likely to engage in aggression, improvements rights, decrease likely to war. Foreign policy and human rights can significantly enhance U.S. and global security, address the threat to states obtaining WMD, and thus the plan of the United States ought to recognize as a civil right, a right to be forgotten for nonviolent criminals. I reserve the right to clarify, and failure to engage in policy debates over concrete internet laws cedes power to the corporations. So the state discussion of RTBF specifically is a key side challenge corporate absolutism, pure and trend routine. The verdict forced both Europeans and Americans long overdue data. Who wants to data first? Is the ongoing battle update the U.S. Data Protection Directive is also the reason why it has supported big data that can be follow the consumer privacy bill rights and status bill to modernize the ECPA censorship already exists in German commercial and government interests. Facebook and shutdown groups, copyright holders make news disappear, same goes for map data or satellite images. Government agencies seem sensitive. Most consumers don't realize that they are censored daily. This whole process is going to average mobile carriers, cable companies, advertising, ad brokers. What's missing in this game is the voice of hundreds of millions of citizens. CCJ for excited by the fact the average person values search place the self-anointed gatekeepers need a counterbalance force. Harvard Professor Subov recently described Google's new face absolutism and hidden and unaccountable power. Google's absolute pursuit web spaming prospects as an open information platform where participants can agree on rules, rights, and choice. We're facing racing towards an internet of everything with billions of devices. That we'd rather have the debate now and engaging the government is key to solving global problems. Gate 7. No foundation, no one can solve the developing world. We need the government. We need the political agenda. Must be. We must look at the collective action because the problems so complex. Government is involved. Sign Gates Foundation accounts for 1% of giving in America. We spend all of our endowment in education, matches just half what California spends. You're giving government spiritually speaking change and adopt a parliamentary round of comfort uncertainty sales, minimizing existentialist posture 9. Hashman Act once that certain amount of canceling point your uncertainty to respect utility is made theory shall maximize utility management for considering for the parliamentary model. Each theory gets in delegates part proportional and probably the theory weak theory conceals waste abuses by sacrificing on this place 10% probability to use the parliament with makes and concessions usual and excess risk bottom with unstable extremism from running term moral theory to take action and cost benefit analysis feasible ignore any util calculation that's hard in 91 charges utils that take time calculating reports actually it should embarrass philosophers they've ever taken seriously power considerations other else dismiss who and calculation not maximizing self calculation really adequate choice one cannot do his best when he can nevertheless be sure calculating is not the best choice. The point is almost never to teach you practically issue reasonable the world will stand still and this standard is maximizing happiness reasons for first revisionary intuitions and provisionary intuitions true leads to utility cascade. Meta level more reasoning been worse than useless people investment when discussing whether choice is bad and when discussing meaning good and bad. That's a prudent criminal discussion that the object level people object and morality doesn't exist. This is not the right term to use. What do you do anyway? It takes special amount of the object level. See morality is a project of renormalizing intuitions, little intuitions of the rock, keep all your intuitions of the K person. Even when its potence is intuition, it just still seems like a good idea. After being reflected on, if you try to value utility or paradoxes, contradictions, and other senses, moral coherence. After research showing the people try to repeat if you frame the problem the wrong way, search just restoration pensions. When you've read enough research on scope and sensitivity, people will pay the same amount, say 50,000 less, 5,000 less. You can think it was some incredibly deep moral truth, or you can say the intuition's wrong. The brain can't multiply, but it ought to when you've read it. Biases research, no coherence proofs for expected utility. You don't see premises of Russell says the deep moral truth just to show the brain doesn't multiply. Primitive intuition, so it has some diminished emotional impact, small quantities to be reflected and corrected enough absurdities. You could see a common denominator, metaphysical by phrase, multiplied side, utilitarian, skip doxastic on freedom, and second, consequential theories are the simplest explanation, rational decision making, pen 99, consequentials, of course, listening on consequentials committed to view that certain values should be honored rather than promoted, but they agree certain values should be promoted as various as economic prosperity, personal hygiene, and safety of nuclear installations, where consequentialists introduce a single axiom and have values justify choices. Non-consequentialists must introduce to it as one thing and make a list of values which allegedly require honor. It's not to say why these values are so different from ordinary desirable properties. They have an unexplained duality. Consequentialists fits nicely with standard views rationality, but has to say the rational thing to do is act. Such good is promoted to non-consequential, says the embarrassment of having to defend a position without analog and not more practical rationality. Next theory programs, Afghans, RBIs, dynamics, and counterterms. A when our types means I can cover the theory, so fair shots up, speed, no state, good neg, free source, service, switch, allows them to boot the AC and ARF on theory because of the 5% neg bias, according to tab room results from rounds 1 through 3 of Glenbrooks and the Afghans specify right to be forgotten for former prisoners' reasons to prefer one. Topic of the right to be forgotten is reading criminal rehabilitation laws used in 14. The right to be forgotten long predates the interrogation, which is comics right to have a circuit expunge after good behavior, such rehabilitative to forgetfulness is exactly the Supreme Court wrestled with a duty teeth when deciding whether records of crimes should be revealed to criminal justice education as an outer and impact Nielsen 11. If a large percent of debaters in a law, political science, social justice, and the present topic would be valid research used to study debate skills such as research or highly transferable. 70% judges recommend intercollegiate debate as precursor to law schools. Debaters law school perhaps one advantage of debate communities opportunity to reveal the most likely to go into 3 to firms on balance most RTBF requested from criminals now in Boyle 1012. Google's lead more than 18,000 publics in this country under the right to be forgotten burdens as the internet search. Trying to remove links 6% Europe wide came criminals 4. For Raff interpretations, key to clash O'Donnell 4. AFC specified the AC, the speech starting point to debate, failure to grade AFC, the only speech meaningless for the rest of the day comes debatable what we should be debating about 5. Default to field context term T violations that terms whether the plans in the lit base I meet. The plan is related to the ECJ ruling in favor of RTBF, that's Bolson 14. And I'm willing to clarify all maps and cross-examine the negative spend one unconditional absent conditionalized that makes boom targets when our strategy okay covered and extended undercovered. I mean I have no strategic options. Also it's unreciprocal because I can't keep the AC. I skipped down to the condo spike. I skipped to Nelson 8 and then I went to the condo spike. Yeah.
At least theory spikes to the round.
Wait, what?
At least theory spikes to the round at the round robin.
The theory spikes. Oh, yeah. Most of them are the same from the round robin.
Yeah, okay, sweet. So, the lake the app is solving the case, right?
Yeah.
So, how do you stop it?
Sorry. Well, solving recidivism is something that the app happens to do, but I'd say that the internal link is more the case that the plan, well, actually, yeah, it would be recidivism because the plan makes the Redeem Act effective, and the Redeem Act being effective is what leads to the shift on tough on crimes. Yeah.
Right. So, the internal warrant why you stop tough on crime is right?
Yeah.
So, how does the advocacy make the Redeem Act effective?
So the Bolson 14 evidence says the right to be forgotten makes the Redeem Act's provisions for expungement effective because even if a nonviolent ex-convict gets their criminal records sealed, officially speaking, there might still be records on the internet, like a local newspaper article that comes up and says, you know, Jerry Chen got arrested. Like, you know, he wouldn't be able to get hired.
Oh, he did. All right, cool. All right, so make sanctions likely.
Yeah, that is the Wagner 10 evidence, which says that a retributive mindset in the criminal justice system spills over to support for economic sanctions on a foreign policy level.
So what was the methodology of the Pexin 9 evidence?
The Pexin 9 evidence just analyzes where economic sanctions have been applied by the United States, and then it looks at kind of like the before and after.
Yeah.
I mean, I have the article if you want to.
Can you just give it in CX? Oh, you're correct.
Yeah, like I have the article. I can just flash it to you.
Sweet. Why does promoting human rights solve WMD?
The Burke-White 4 evidence says that U.S. human rights promotion makes states less aggressive, and that addresses the concern that you will have rogue states acquiring WMDs. That's especially true in the context of support for economic sanctions, because economic sanctions are ostensibly for promoting human rights, where in fact they might lead to such desperation within the country that the state that is being sanctioned against will acquire WMDs in resistance to their foreign aggressors.
So those magically happen to acquire WMDs because they have economic.
No, obviously it is a rigorous process on behalf of the state being sanctioned against, but I'd argue that economic sanctions would aggravate the population of the country being sanctioned against and make it more likely that the leader would acquire WMDs as a political ploy.
What do economic sanctions do?
Economic sanctions prohibit trade with the relevant country being sanctioned. They sever economic ties. For example, like countries are...
Right. So in countries where we would apply economic sanctions, why would that matter, right? Because the leaders of the country, the elites of the country seem to have a source of revenue outside of external like economic trade, right? They would control the resources in the country.
Well, my evidence says that human rights abuses would be likelier as a consequence of sanctions. I'm not sure what the revenue question has to do with that.
Right, because you're saying that the economic elites or the people who are in power would be more likely to release WMDs if there's economic sanctions, right? And you're saying that because they feel like the tight grip of economic sanctions. But
Well-
that wouldn't be the case if they have like external revenue source.
Well, I'd argue that the population would feel the tight grip. Because
Right.
even if you have the political leaders that are acquiring a lot of money, most of the population would just remain in dire poverty because they would have access to things like food, a lack of access to things like food, for example. But I don't need to win the internal link to leaders getting aggravated, because the fact that U.S. foreign policy leads to human rights abuses undermines the possibility for U.S. foreign policy to be a site where we can prevent human rights abuses from occurring. Do you still need the Paxson article?
No.
Okay. Also, I apologize to viewers for laughing. I was looking at someone new.
How's I see. What's the function of this Hewer and Trenberg argument?
If you were to read a critique alt that did not engage in a topical debate about whether the right
If I read a counterplan, is that cool?
Yeah.
And we send it to exclude the counterplan?
No, it's a policy debate about RTBF. So
Sweet. All right, 132. Can you understand?
yeah.
I'll flash you.
Okay.
I obviously names things.
Okay.
R4 and T straight.
Sounds good, dude. Alright.
Feeling good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Counterpoint takes the U.S. will grant rehabilitation certificates for non-violent criminal offenders, providing community rehabilitation program. PC and evidence, succeeding evidence first. Rehabilitation certificates for working individuals with rehabilitation, which aids for stability, rehabilitation, society, government, clarifies and access to psychiatry. Particularly rehabilitation preferable in having one criminal past bearing, responding to formally legally perfect rehabilitation, separating relief from all legal penalties, certificate with function letter recommendation that also used in the boards and state officials. Those service solely negative signal information quality positive signal employees those who have been more likely to use the ability to develop a record on inmate information so behavior prison will help them which is about the negative information that incarceration scheme. A person intended to investigate behavior and activity screening them. A better legitimate employment athletes also turns back and says a link to the recidivism argument academy. My kind of always felt best for recidivism. I always felt best for recidivism. Then second, people attention to figures receiving the part of the symbology also includes self-perception with the sentiment reform and decrease recidivism. Ruin two. Research on former prisoners suggests that business requires an ongoing process of care, small recognition of the policy makes the eyes of the working disability threat for offensive party even worse than reporting to self-assessment and non-offender. They actually feel safety by reducing students in the population active party for the block against cultural behavior ranges of the state. And one reform is also put in evidence kind of like Paul Everett, bulky party to be able to rehabilitate his acknowledgement of the party restored by diversity of itself, perception of citizen by having the party of the right to guard you. Just further encourages citizens to alter that office also has to never next advantage to do exactly the right for God. So even if he says that it is key to making the Regime Act more successful, the Canada is actually more key. Be much better making Regime Act more successful. So let me turn to the act. Third, concealing criminal record can't solve. Maroon gives 2 warrants. The fourth thing is often request disclosure of conviction go to have been exposed to your state, judicial committee on bar admissions and private applicants to developers, arrested convicted convictions even if expunged to well more expunged. You should not actually explain the sometimes wrong. Gaps in a person's work history when asked. We've been doing the last 3 weeks hard to give it to believe that the law is punishment from right or encourage job you can tell a lie also. And therefore the influence will just have the wrong information that they would use that the information is criminal. Then go to the act itself. First, turn. Considering criminal records leads to distortion that harms ex-convicts, they're gone, right? The consequence of the information they gather and distribute the accident disadvantage business, and then civil service agencies and others who consume the worst feeling and that like magic far more worried than that. The accident also turns back to your citizen arguments they can't get a job. That means they are wanting to rescind. They need to provide to the family somehow. So also means that recidivism, second observation to remove accurate community advantage of the system to take rehabilitation to go back and they more crimes and go back to prison being right. Some individuals are hiding potential information about the past by lying in the internet search terms they're forcing their new rights to God to Google. Maybe I admitted that it's not to remove them slipping through. Surgeons have relying on requests for information about insurance. Then the person actually won't able to request to remove links to the whole article. The person being convicted of a number of crimes in teenage years and would based on the person convicted similar crimes in also to turn the argument the AC we're talking about. We have to stop getting tough on crime. This argument will prove that rehabilitation doesn't work again. That retribution is the only thing to do to actually further a tough on crime mindset. Also, independent turn the app. Then. It's also turns the ability to get actually undergo rehabilitation is more likely to go back to prison. Third turn. Considering past criminal records results in bad police work, gone 2 or 3. Keeping records available to result in improvement generally, that versus the fact more ability to make more scrutiny and record information stuff and actually most departments how many the reports are accurate to defend ability and lasting investigation and anonymity. Also preservation mentioned and movement incentive for accuracy terms and greater takes incorrect incarceration furthers the ability to iterate back to society and that can start even. Fourth turn. Removing access to criminal records results in more discrimination, more people want to go to prison, more support for the Get Tough on Crime movement. Mayfield right. Expungement laws may increase racial presence among employers who are aware of these expungement laws. These employers may discriminate against groups of traditionally high racial rates, expungement entities, and employers returning with a particular criminal record. Then, if civil rights lie on the foot of the oppressive system, the app identifies you can to stop human rights abuse by you only defend civil rights, the right to be found as civil rights, only because it rejects human rights abuses all over the world. Con rights. Civil rights rather than national legal orders, if you're real natural dollars makes the national legal order dependable for freedom defining persons right to police in also many ways. If person may recognize civil rights laws and them practically, persons go forward to read a person will allow to seek civil rights and legal rights related to condition a person alone has the authority comes to rescue only the person struggle. A person has no reason to make this no guarantee those persons the legal authority change. You grant a civil rights are on the side of the oppressed and civil rights movement extension may be person portrayed as the deeds of purchasing that in the people power by. Continue rights to the person has the 12 weapons president so being good morally upright also so to need the US should grant civil rights and the we can make your rights to yourself local in the world movie. We'll be able to see the hypocritical between none of these foreign policy objectives. You keep talking about actually matter. Then I'm not reading the 6. Destruction effect link turns the action information will become easy to find gain from the right to church rights. Right, we've gone into the exact opposite effect. Already see demons who notifying the article remove person. You can see whether the same notification was Allison. On the published version of the articles, we everyone remember them more distraction thanks so much effort to attract attention to greater awareness. Because people will remove the search for taking from scrapping the articles. No, boundary down to the your thanks to journalists who can be hyperlink on the stories. There's 3. Using the use to become to college edition church results. And finally, even if the plan passes, it will be repealed to the explicitly unconstitutional act of solvency. Jacob's 9. Any thoughts of report on the habit of fluid again, the Constitution the right to privacy, protecting individual dissemination of criminal records is spelled in 1996 by Paul. The Davis claims Paul actually values Constitutional privacy rights, points to 3 Davis claim. Constitutional protection of the skills and the factors rest on shopping and claim space. On the claim the state may not publish the record that officials to prevent them from your privacy decisions, holders or anything else to decline to employ them in this manner. Also, the term DVC says that the right to guard is an integral part of the Redeem Act. If you attach the Redeem Act, you have to be 100% repealed to the unconstitutional, so it means you have literally 0 access to solvency. And also, for the person through this unconstitutional, Jacob's 9. It's very unlikely legislatures could successfully restrict access to criminal history record. The U.S. Supreme Court recognized the Amendment right to public transit bodies to support public access to proceedings. The court also found that media and public a strong First Amendment right to create and broadcast and use their patterns of criminal justice. Then he can't feel this hour. The only field is passing the plan means he never doing it. Only the counterplan has a possibility of solving the impact. And also, violating the Constitution also links to mass market happening. If the U.S. is abided by the Constitution, if a critical human rights abuse, which is undermines the foreign policy that the identifies. Also, independently system human rights, the U.S. has to promote human rights around the world. That is the ultimate against promoting human rights to be, or you just promote not actually bring human rights around the world. Also, I get access to human rights, the human rights impact. And then it also gives me access to new more impact. Then, lastly, I'm actually going to read it. Granting rights to solution to abstract and social reality, leaving place and fairly questioning, using power structure means rights to never stop the human being he's talking about. Ground rights. Rights to define rape by social powers and natural possessions, private person in fact, the effective social powers, they obfuscate rights to source, campus by private potentially to political context of the GBX resources, but the relevant parties of social problems matter of individualized dehistoricized injury and entitlement matters, which is no violated subject.
Okay. So, Streisand effect. This seems to only apply to high-profile individuals. Why would it apply to the numerous non-violent ex-convicts?
So, you may think it applies only high-profile individuals. My argument is, if you attach a new plan, the right to be forgotten is hotly contested, right? So it is a hot button issue. So the high-profile individual that you claim.
Why would there be journalists writing articles about the vast majority of non-violent ex-convicts that make RTBF requests? Also, doesn't the Streisand effect rely on the assumption that an RTBF request will not be successful? Like, you ask Google and they say no, and then that gets publicized?
Wait, which question do you want me to answer?
The second one.
So, no, my argument is it doesn't rely on the. So, what you right to be forgotten is linked to these, right? So, if you read the links, the article is still there. Right. So it would just incentivize people to put up.
Wait. So if the right to be forgotten, in fact, just means that the links are deleted. Why would there necessarily be articles that result about the right to be forgotten?
I mean, if there's a link, presumably there's an article to it, right? There's no links for nothing.
Okay. Let's see. So the let's see. You read Maruna evidence, which is about the New York State Judicial Committee. Like not caring about expungement laws. How would this apply to the entire 50 U.S. states?
Well, this is just an example. So the argument that he's making is a lot of companies and people who hire don't care about expungement laws. They will ask you your criminal record regardless of whether or not you were expunged. Just because they see that you don't have a criminal record officially doesn't mean.
So they might ask you about your criminal record despite the expungement, but why would that be an issue for non-violent ex-convicts who would just be able to say, I've never committed a crime, because legally speaking, they would be able to deny that their criminal past happened.
Right. Your advocacy is the right to be forgotten, right? Not expungement itself.
Well, no, my AF makes expungement effective, and this is an indictive expungement, so presumably it still applies to my AF. What I'm asking you is, assuming that the right to be forgotten makes expungement effective, like not only are the paper records officially sealed and wiped away from the past, but also the internet records go away too. And then an employer, even after all that happens, still asks somebody, did you commit a crime?
The second part of the card specifically indicates that there are other trails that would lead to an employer to not hire somebody, like, for example, gaps in your work record, right? You work for a place and you just don't work for 5 years and then you're back in the record, right? So that would indicate to them that you were in prison, even if you not officially on the record.
You say that non-violent ex-convicts are going to provide false information to Google to get an RTBF request?
I'm saying that's strictly verified.
Well, no, you read evidence. I'm talking about something else. You read evidence that says that prisoners have provided, or non-violent ex-convicts have provided false information to Google about their conviction. Wouldn't that also apply to rehabilitation certificates too? You'll have a non-violent ex-convict that provides false information about how reformed they are just to get their certificate.
No, the argument is they would have to undergo rehabilitation. It's not like you just give them rehabilitation.
What sort of rehabilitation would they undergo? Like what programs?
I mean, it doesn't really matter, right? It's whichever the system would view as appropriate. I don't
like
know.
What? Wait, what? Like how can you grant rehabilitation certificates to most non-violent prisoners when rehabilitation is pretty low in the status quo?
What do you mean? How can you grant it? Kind of like fiat.
Wait, what rehabilitation programs do you fiat? Like what is
anyone?
Well, what does the counterplan do to rehabilitate?
It says they undergo a rehabilitation program.
Yes. What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Like what programs would they undergo?
I mean, I don't know the rehabilitation program. They go undergo one which people who know things would decide is the most effective one, and they would get a rehabilitation certificate for that.
Okay.
That was kind of fun documentation.
Okay. So you say that because I'm unconstitutional that the AF will get repealed?
Yes.
Okay.
You attach the right to be forgotten to freedom. or the Redeem Act.
$53. So I'll send you this card. Just called one of your cards for. So the order is counterplan, then the case. So is everybody good? Everyone good? All right. One perm to both solves all the internal benefits of the counterplan. For example, the rehabilitation certificates. Although would increase recidivism, the framing issue for the debate is whether my AF would undermine the reduction of recidivism rates, given that the perm would solve recidivism twice as much. Also, don't frame the counterplan through a lens of sufficiency, given that this is a linear impact, so the perm would just solve twice as better. Also, the Maruna evidence is an empirical claim without an empirical warrant interest. It starts the rehabilitation certificates would help people, but it doesn't explain why that would be the case. I don't know who shut the lights off. I don't know who shut the lights off. Also, wait, not hold on one second. That threw me off. What? Okay, anyways. Also, see Crossix, he didn't explain what rehabilitation programs would be entailed, which means that the counterplan cannot possibly solve for anything, given that he has no explanation what the role of counterplan will be. Rehabilitation certificates would not be possible unless we have a clear sense of what rehabilitation programs would occur. I control uniqueness. Tough on crime is the status quo, so rehabilitation certificates are not going to do anything. Also, the Maruna, on the Maruna 2 evidence, he says that it would restore a person's self-perceptions, but that's not unique, given that even if people have rehabilitation certificates that might not affect their self-perceptions, people might get a certificate, but they might still feel guilty. Also, right to be also, there's no impact to self-perception, because even if you feel guilty, at least you'll be able to get a job, which means you won't be able to recidivate. Recidivism is the only relevant impact. Also, the Maruna evidence he reads about how the plan doesn't solve is only about New York. It's not about all 50 states, which means on balance, the plan is still going to work. Also, this evidence says that employers often request convictions that have been expunged, but there's no reason why nonviolent ex-convicts would have to give in to that corporate coercion. Given that an individual, once the RTBF has happened and the internet record of their arrest and conviction has gone away, along with their paper records being officially sealed and expunged, there's no reason why they have to give in to a boss saying, yes, you were probably convicted. They could say, no, I wasn't, and legally say that's true, and also the RTF would be affected. Now, case. He's conceded that Hoover and Tranberg, Martin Evans, that we need to have a policy debate about the right to be forgotten. This takes out his arguments about how civil rights represent some oppressive form of representation. He critiques the notion of civil rights, but that's not unique. The arguments would logically apply to the counterplan too. For example, as evidence says that we should not work within the structural order, but so does the counterplan. We should have a policy debate about whether the RTBF is a good idea, not whether civil rights are a good idea. Also, it's try or die for the AF. I control uniqueness because the status quo is exclusionary criminals, and the status quo is exclusionary criminals is always a risk that the AF solves. Always turns or mitigation. They dispute that the AF might fail in certain instances. For example, if an RTBF request fails and then the Streisand effect occurs, his evidence does not say that the Streisand effect is going to occur in the vast majority of instances. His evidence about how expungement leads to more discrimination is just about minorities, but it's not about all nonviolent ex-convicts, which means that on balance, my AF is still a good idea, and imperfect advocacy is better than nothing at all. So you'd still evaluate through try down the Kogan evidence. He says that business people just assume the worst in people simply because there's a blank on the record, but there's no reason why expungement would lead to a blank on the record. It would be no different from someone getting a job that's never committed a crime before. There just wouldn't be anything there. The logic of this argument would then be that employers would assume the worst about literally everybody, which wouldn't make any sense because some people do get hired. The Bolson 14 evidence says that expungement is uniquely key to ensuring that they get hired. That evidence was conceded and it would take this out. Also, the dean evidence says people might provide fake information, but that's not unique. That also applies to the counterplan too. Prisoners might provide fake information, or they might fake their will to be rehabilitated in order to get a certificate, and then they might go out and not actually follow according to the certificate. Also, this evidence is just speculating about it and an example of where there might be false information. There's no empirical evidence as to why there would be false information, but in most instances, also the example that this gives is relevant to my app. It talks about how the person had been convicted of similar crimes as an adult when they're trying to expunge a youthful record. But I'm saying that people should just not have their internet records about any crime committed. There's no impact to the fact that someone lied about having committed similar crimes as an adult. The Kogan evidence is about bad police work. One, there's no impact. Two, this is about probation staffs, not police work. The Mayfield evidence is about discrimination, but one, this is an empirical claim without an empirical word. It doesn't actually substantiate how employers have discriminated. Two, it says that employers will discriminate, but that's not unique. If you have genuinely racist employers that are just not going to hire black people, the counterplan's not going to solve either. So that's not unique. Also, the Turk evidence is only about high-profile individuals like Barbara Streisand. It's not going to be about most of the nonviolent ex-convicts who most people aren't going to care about. Also, the Jacobs evidence says that the plan will be repealed if it's unconstitutional, but durable fiat solves 100%. Also, him denying durable fiat as a voting issue, it kills Afghans. It would undermine any possibility for me to run a plan that is inherent, because he would just be able to say that it will get rolled back as people won't like it. So that makes it impossible to affirm. In fairness, is the gateway issue. Drop the debate because the balance currency debate. Also, he says constitution, but extinction outweighs. Also, he says human rights, but those human rights abuses don't spill over to foreign policy. Hypocrisy won't happen. He doesn't read soft power evidence.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
So I should never be able to question the efficacy of the plan.
No, you can question the efficacy of the plan, but you can't deny that.
Never make backlash arguments.
You can't make a roll. You can make a backlash argument about why the plan doesn't solve, but you can't make a rollback argument out of that.
Why is it abusive again?
That's abusive because I would never be able to read a plan that has inherency, right? Because if for example, like, you know, my plan has not happened yet because people in the status quo would probably hate it. So you could just be like, the plan will never pass because people don't like it. So that would make it impossible for me to defend an inherent plan.
The plan would never pass. The plan
well, you could also say to get rolled back too. Like the plan passes and then people are like, oh, I don't like this, and then I get rid of it.
What was the permutation?
The permutation was just do both.
Right. What was the net benefit to the permutation?
I just said that like you have to win disads of the AF. Like I guess the net benefit to the perm is the perm solves recidivism twice as good. Okay. Right? Because crime is a linear impact. Okay. So. Who turned the lights off?
That happened.
Oh, yeah. Sorry for like stopping it when I argued.
right. Order is counterplan app. Overview counterplan app.
Okay.
Everyone good?
Yeah.
Branding between the counterplan, he's going making win the permutation by winning defense to every single one of my net disadvantages. Yeah, if I win one of the net disadvantages, yeah, means counterplan competitive means go on the counterplan. Go to the counterplan attack. To the counterplan is USM dual, where rehabilitation certificate to provide by the criminal defenders provided they to the rehabilitation process and go to the root evidence. The root evidence says rehabilitation certificate for training individuals rehabilitated, which A, the person's ability to re-integrate society. She says there's no empirical war. Very clearly has empirical war. He says empirical studies include public conduct around. Very clearly has an empirical war. Second, response to this, we don't know what the rehab programs are, but it does not matter what the rehab programs are. We the rehab programs are to different people. We will actually know how to rehabilitate criminals. It does not matter what the rehabilitation program is. The problem is the only thing that matters is whether they go through with the rehabilitation program and get the rehabilitation certificate in the future at all. Then go to room 2. If the rehabilitation certificate is seen as part of the sentence of all the eligible person self-protection will incentivize reform means if somebody gets a rehabilitation certificate, they'll be more likely to they'll be less likely to recidivate. They are seen as part. He says they may have guilt, but by our reasons they empirically verified. They've been research on foreign prisoners suggests that this requires an ongoing process of care, and the research indicates my tree. Even if there's a risk that they may have guilt, my reason is much more likely that if you give them rehabilitation certificate, they will not have guilt. They will be less likely to recidivate. So, his response. His second response, at least you'll be able to get a job. My argument is no, you will not be able to get a job because you, first of all, you're more likely to recidivate, which links much harder to his argument. His argument is a two-step process. He says we're trying to make self for recidivism. So my argument is if I straight up control the link to recidivism, I say that with rehabilitation certificates you will have less recidivism. It doesn't matter if you can get a job. The job is instrumentally valuable in trying to stop recidivism. So then you're also not doing nearly enough work on the Veruna 2 evidence. Veruna 3 evidence. I think they can see on the criminal records cannot solve because so in the second part of the correct the expunged procedure job. Not explaining why sometimes long gaps in our expert's work is doing ask what you've been doing. The last 3 years hard to believe the law because recruitment and workers a job seeker tell lie. This argument very clear indicates that even if you are expunged, you get the right to expunged or remove all things on the internet. You don't have a work history. You're basically unemployed for a couple of years. That disincentivize the companies for hiring you today to get something sketchy. Much rather hire a person who does not have that on the record. They have no gaps in their record. Very clearly cannot solve. Also turns also net disadvantage to the applicant, less likely to get a job, more likely to recidivate if you do not give them a rehabilitation. If all you do is try to expunge, which is the only thing the app does. Then go to the first Kogan evidence. Extending the criminal record leads to distortion that harms the ex-convicts is similar to the first argument. It's not exactly the same. The first argument indicates people that they come to are less likely to hire somebody who's been expunged or like to expunge. There's no guarantee that they actually change over time. There's no guarantee they actually did anything. Rehabilitation should get solved back because they've been rehabilitated. They are completely fine now. And then he's also not doing enough work on the next token of this. Accidentally concealing past criminal records results in bad police work. Bad police work is the only reason it's turned the app is a great attention and incorrect incarcerations in. Here's further inability to integrate back into society. More people likely to go to jail, and just further to the tough on crime mindset that he's talking about. His number one response, there's no impact. Barely there was an impact. It's further the tough on crime mindset, which is controlled internally to all his arguments in the app. The second one is it only talks about probation. Probation that's further the mitigatory defense at best. It's mine is clearly offense. Second of all, it doesn't matter. There's no reason why it matters whether it's probation staff or not probation staff to control the ability for the ex-con to be in jail or not. They literally control whether or not the ex-con the con is in jail or not. They control when they get out. That's what probation is. Then the last damning issue for him is going to be the constitutionality stuff. I think he jigs that. Even the plan passed will be repealed to explicitly unconstitutional. The act of Joe Sullivan Supreme Court in Paul versus Davis indicated you cannot the U.S. not hide criminal records or past criminal records from public knowledge. You can see the evidence. So he's also conceding violating the constitution that maximizing time the U.S. doesn't abide by the constitutional procedure for hypocritical human rights. If you undermine the foreign policy of the AG identifies the only argument he goes for in the last seconds of 1 yard execution that ways, but no why he's not understanding the argument we're starting to say link turn to his evidence the USSB had to act like in stop to maximize human rights abuses around the world. My argument is that is the contingent on the U.S.'s ability to actually act in other countries. We're perceived as hypocritical. No one will actually believe the U.S. No one will care what the U.S. does. They won't allow us to promote human rights, which just go and lead to WMDs, whatever the extinction scenario is. It's a link turn. It's not its own independent advantage. Then go to try or die on the app. There's absolutely no reason why it's try or die. You just search this try or die. It's try or die. All my net is the J advantage coming out of the counterplan indicate it's not try or die. It can always get worse. Because I'm making the whole thing of the plan does increase more recidivism or second of all, it promotes the get Trump on crime movement. So there's no reason why it can't get worse. His only new reason why it can get worse is it's exclusionary to ex-cons right now, but it can always get worse. So I'm saying that it gets worse. So you cannot, it's very clearly not try or die. No new response to it. So the round, it's really clear. He loses the permutation on the counter plan if I win a net disadvantage, because you should do the counter plan on the app because the app is a bad thing to do. He's not doing nearly enough work on any of the Maroon evidence or the Color 2 Kogon evidence to indicate to you why it's not a net disadvantage. Clearly, all the arguments were impacting the 1 and C. You know new response in the 2 area. You can try to train up and give new responses. Very clear why either impact link turns recidivism or link turns the get tough on crime movement. Very clearly did not read any responses. So it means the counter plan is competitive. Also, the app is a bad thing to do, and the counter plan clearly solves better. Then even independently of that, the counterplan is constitutional. His arguments aren't. So it's always net. It's always better to do something constitutional than do something unconstitutional. I'm not going to test the durable fiat argument. My only argument is if the U.S. violates the Constitution, even if the plan is repealed, that'll just make it look hypocritical, and we won't be able to pursue human rights objectives anywhere in the world, which undermines the entire story in the app.
Okay. Wait. So what's your internal link to human rights hypocrisy?
Violating the Constitution.
Okay. Okay, so quickly on the F, on like the durable fiat argument, and the counter plan, and then back to the app. All right, is everybody good? I had to drop the debate or implication of the durable fiat argument. He's conceded that the ballot is the currency of the debate, which means you should drop it and disincentivize him for practices. He's conceded that him denying my durable fiat is unfair and moots all F crime because I wouldn't be able to access an inherent plan that's an independent reason to affirm. Now, on the counterplan, perm to both. The perm solves twice as well because crimes say linear impact. It's not a question of the counterplan solving alone being a good thing. All I have to do is beat back the dissets of the app. I would solve any of the internal net benefits and rehabilitation certificates, even if he wins. That rehabilitation certificates alone would be would be good for decreasing recidivism. That's something the perm accesses. He has to win arguments for why the plan is proactively bad. All the arguments for why rehabilitation certificates themselves are good are not offense for him because the permutation solves them. Also, extend the key doesn't explain what the world of the counterplan looks like in terms of rehabilitation programs. He says that this is relevant for whether the counterplan solves, but I'd say it is relevant for whether the counterplan solves because we don't know what the rehabilitation programs are. We don't know whether the programs are actually going to help criminals be rehabilitated. The rehabilitation certificate will just be illusory if the programs themselves do not actually help the criminals re-enter society with skills that would enable them to live a normal life. This also means even if he wins solvency deficits the app, which he's conceded are just mitigation. They don't apply in the vast majority of instances for criminals. They only apply in isolated instances like in New York or for people whose RTBF requests fail. This would mean that the perm would resolve any of the solvency deficits that he establishes in the app, and it would also resolve the solvency deficit that I have established on the counterplan, given that if you do both the app and both advocacies are imperfect, but if you put them together, that's going to solve more recidivism than a counterplan alone, which is insufficient to solve, which outweighs all of his solvency deficits. Which he's conceded the framing issue that I made on the app. We'll go to the app now. He concedes the framing issue I made in the app that his solvency deficits in turns do not apply to the app on balance. They just apply to certain isolated instances. For example, in an instance where an employer will discriminate against minorities because they'll have a bias that minorities are more likely to commit crime, or you'll have employers who are more likely to demand the expunged records just because they see a blank spot. His evidence does not say that applies in the majority of circumstances. It would only apply in isolated circumstances. Means there's still a comparative plan. Also, try or die does apply. That rhyme, but he has conceded that there's always a risk the app solves controlling meetings because in the status quo, non-violent ex-convicts are excluded from society, which means there's always a risk that the app would be sufficient to solve. There's also a risk that the permutation would be sufficient to solve as well. He also says human rights hypocrisy, but try or die would logically apply to human rights hypocrisy too in terms of the Constitution, because the U.S. violates the Constitution a lot in the status quo, but there's always a risk that the app would have a comparative advantage in terms of ensuring that the United States would still be able to be credible. Also, even though I said this at the end of the 1 era, it's still true. He's not reading any evidence for this hypocrisy argument. He's not reading any soft power evidence about how soft power is important for ensuring U.S. human rights protection. There's a reason why the United States cannot just have human rights be the basis of their foreign policy and then just actually promote that in terms of material change in other countries, for example, not having economic sanctions. He also says guilt, but he never explains why guilt actually impacts to recidivism. He's conceded that as long as nonviolent ex-convicts need a job, guilt is irrelevant because at least they'll be able to have the economic opportunities that ensure they can't recidivate. He says that employers will be concerned because there will be a blank spot, but he's conceded that the logic would apply to people who have never committed a crime in their life. Employers would just assume the worst about every single person ever that's had a blank spot where there would have been a criminal record, which means that the fact that there is a blank spot in terms of where a criminal record would have been is irrelevant to hiring decisions. And the Bolson 14 evidence says that the plan is key to reducing recidivism. So you prefer that to stop the effort.
Yeah, that's just the
Yes.